Hi, guys. I wanted to do a little bit on where we are today and how it compares to years gone by. Now, I would call this the era of the sports and the rap star with with the era of the IG model and the TikTok dancer. And why I want to say it that way is, as I said, I'm in my 40s. So, back as far as, when I was younger, back in maybe 1985 or, around that time when I was right there and I was present and I understood, that was the era of Christy Brinkley, you know, I think back then, Cindy Crawford, all of those people, they were the supermodels. And what would happen is you would have these beautiful women who would be, go to New York and they become discovered and they would, as that era in the supermodel, they would get millions of dollars to market clothes and different items. Now, this is pre-internet being proliferated. This is pre-smartphones, pre all of that stuff. That was when Vogue magazine, Cosmopolitan magazine, they ran everything. And newspapers, the ads were in there. So that was Madison Avenue. And so these women would go there and they would, make fortunes if they were the it girls, right? And, who was making the money? That time it was rock. It was rock. And back then, the bands were Motley Crue, Pearl Jam, all of that. Pearl Jam was more closer to the 90s. But, back then also Red Hot Chili Peppers, all of those bands. So those bands were really in vogue. And so on the high tier, you had the models, the supermodels, and the lower tier models. On the lower tier, you had the groupies, because these bands would go from town to town and they would, basically they would play, and after they finish, there will be a bevy of young women who are just there to enjoy the presence of these bands. And rockers used to talk about the stories of groupies traveling to different towns all over North America and enjoying the delights of the young ladies there. And so groupies never really got much out of it, right? Because they would go sleep with these rockers or entertain and spend the night entertaining these rockers, and there'd be nothing left for them. Maybe there was a chance that possibly they could get pregnant, but even then that was challenging. I even remember the story of Liv Tyler, that for years she didn't even know who her real father was, because it was two different band members sleeping with the same woman. Yeah, Liv Tyler was an actor, right? Daughter of Steven Tyler. So, and that's from the band Aerosmith. So that was the era, the 80s into the early 90s, that you had your groupies, you had your models, and of course you had your actresses. And it wasn't until the 2010s that you found out that a lot of these actresses faced the casting couch, because the thing is that there are hundreds of thousands of extremely beautiful women in North America. Hundreds of thousands. I would even say that probably it's over 1 million. And what does it take to choose one over the other for acting? I've never figured it out, because I don't think that remembering your lines is a big factor in acting, because I think many people can remember their lines. Many people can show emotion. So I always wondered what was the deciding factor. And, it was clarified that, you may have had connections. You may just be the it person, all of that. But as we saw, many people were compromised. And Harvey Weinstein, the different stories that came out, showed that it was not an easy road there. So that was the golden days, right? Now you move into the 2010s and the 2020s. Rock is not that popular anymore. And a lot of the people who are, a lot of people get married now, who are, your classic, rock / pop singers get married. And so they're off the market. But what's left are your rap the lower tiered hip hop and the rap, and also your basketball players, your NFL players. And what ends up happening is you have all these young ladies who are now they don't have to go to Madison Avenue or New York to be discovered. Now they can just open up an app, turn on this high resolution camera, and they can broadcast themselves on Instagram or broadcast themselves on TikTok. And what happens is, for regular guys, they look and they are salivating over these young women, and they're like, whoa, this is great, seeing them. But for people who are, professional athletes, rappers, or even pop or whatever it is, those guys are looking at them saying, hey, these are potential mates. And we're seeing this in the dating choices, that many of these ballers and rappers and that, they're ending up with these IG models or TikTok models and that. And those that they don't end up with, what we're seeing is a lot of them, a lot of these young ladies, sometimes they think, hey, I can get some endorsements, I can get sponsorships and all that stuff. That's not steady money. For most people, it won't be steady money, because you have to pay rent every month and you have to pay your car note every month. And if you don't have steady money, something you can depend on, then guess what? You have to now go out and hustle. And I think that's what is happening. There's a misconception that you can get a steady income, with 100,000, 200,000, followers on TikTok or Instagram. But it doesn't work that way. Even the creator fund for TikTok does not pay that much. So therefore, the next step for these young ladies is, and we're seeing it more and more now, is that they're either saying, okay, I'm going to do the traditional thing, is focus on school and, get a profession. Or, number two, they can say, okay, I'm going to try to find a husband, maybe I have a minor job. And those are two traditional routes. Now, there's a minority of them who are saying, okay, I am going to find a sugar daddy, or, seeking arrangements or something like that. And that, honestly, sometimes I wonder about that, because that's I think that's cheapening yourself. And that's, you're now entering into sex work, and you never know what you might get out of that. So I'm very disappointed when people take that route. Then you have those who say, hey, I will open an OnlyFans account and all that stuff. And that's where, they're now with the simps. And I think that's less dangerous, but I always wonder with someone, it must do something for you in your soul to literally be selling, pictures and videos of yourselves to others, right? And people always say, once you put it on the internet, it will end up somewhere. But I even forget about that. I'm just thinking about the fact that you're now creating a transaction where you are marketing your body, and it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't resonate quite well with me on that one. But you know what? People do it, and that's what they're doing. And then what I'm finding on the professional athlete side is those guys are looking on these OnlyFans, these Instagram accounts, these TikTok accounts, and they're looking at, as I said, like a menu. They're looking at it like it's the McDonald's menu, and they're going to shoot their shot in the DMs and all of that stuff. So you have that ecosystem now formed, and this ecosystem, I think that it's not good, because I'm seeing where, it's, if someone is selling pictures of themselves, videos of themselves, I wonder if the athlete or the rapper or whoever it is, or the pop star, I wonder if they think, hey, this person is worthy to be my wife, or that's where the challenge comes. And a lot of times what happens in this is that these young men who are in these, sports or rapping or whatever, a lot of them are from broken homes. And because they're broken homes, they have the luck of nature, of being tall or athletic or having natural ability, which was developed. And because of that, they're now given these massive salaries. And with these salaries, they now can fund, a young lady who wants to do this, right? And so it doesn't normally end up right because, that. And when you look at it, the girls themselves are naturally endowed, because the thing about it is that they're born naturally beautiful, and, they probably exercise to keep it up and all of that stuff. So, the athlete is not much different than the model, with the difference of the athlete has to work and train to be an athlete. I think the model has to maintain their weight and their beauty regime and all of that stuff to do that. But what we're seeing with all of this now is that it has not really changed. It's just that the groupies are now back in the 80s and the 90s, the groupies didn't really get any money from it. Now these groupies can monetize social media. But I worry about it in the sense that, are we as a society descending? Because if we get to the point where, the most beautiful, the most athletic are, cheapening themselves and entering into these transactions, I don't think that bodes well for society. And, I think of all those very brilliant software developers. Now, they're not earning $1 million a year. A lot of them may be earning closer to 150 or 200,000 a year. Those guys are the lonely ones who are now going to be the simps who will buy the OnlyFans, who will enter into the seeking arrangements and all this stuff. So they're also, I think, in the ecosystem also. But theirs is more quiet, because when you think about it, a lot of it is, I've heard of it over and over. Someone could be, on an H-1B visa, or they're in Canada as a skilled immigrant. And what happens here? They come over, single man, working a lovely job, and what happens? They're lonely, and because of that loneliness, they're now the prime candidates to be buying OnlyFans, to be doing these seeking arrangement stuff. So it's not only the ball players, it's also those lonely guys. And so this ecosystem, I think, will not bode well for marriage rates. It will cheapen sex. And I think that as a society, this can't be good. So my hope is that a lot of young women don't go down this route. I mean, the first two routes that we spoke about first was, going to school, getting an education, and trying to, be independent. Or, what it is? Trying to find a husband and someone who, you can work with and partner with. But this OnlyFans stuff, seeking arrangement stuff, it cheapens you. And I don't know if it gives you a good result. But I just wanted to chat on that. Thanks, guys.